The Angelina College Department of Theater proudly presents another Mystery at the Microphone with Inspector Rufflethorpe, Scotland Yard's finest detective. We'll follow the brilliant detective inspector and her able assistant, Everett Frimly, as they untangle another case of murder, mystery, and mayhem. And now, Detective Sergeant Frimly.
Hello, I'm Everett Frimly, Inspector Rufflethorpe's right-hand man. I ask you, how can a murderer vanish into thin air? The victim is in a locked room, and a murder most foul is committed. And yet, when the room is opened, the murderer is gone. Well, the inspector and I were certainly baffled by just such a mystery in what I call the Twitshyre murder case. Scotland Yard assigned Inspector Rufflethorpe and myself to investigate the mysterious death of Lord Archibald Farquhar Bensington at Twitshyre Estate. We motored up to Margate and met local police constable Dixon. The inspector began, of course, with the butler.
Describe for me, Chalmers, Lord Bensington's death in this room last night.
Well, Inspector, his lordship came into this study at precisely 9:40. He's quite a stickler for time. He locked himself in to avoid the guests at Lady Bensington's cocktail party. 10 minutes later, I heard a scream, then a crash, and several gunshots. We rushed over, and you could hear him shouting, "I'll get you, and you can't get away." Then another gunshot, and silence. So,
they broke down the door to find Lord Bensington dead, with a gun in his hand, but a bullet hole in his foot.
Yes, Constable, but how did his lordship die? Was it from a gunshot to his foot?
Impossible, Inspector. The coroner's report stated he died of suffocation. The gunshot was merely a flesh wound. It can't be suicide.
So it must be murder. But where did the murderer go? No one came out the door.
Yes, Frimly. The windows were locked from the inside. Are these walls solid? No secret doors?
None, Inspector. We checked every inch of this room. The desk had been overturned with his shoes and pocket watch lying on the floor.
It seems the murderer suddenly appeared in the room, killed him, and then vanished?
Frankly, Inspector, I'm baffled. It's as if Lord Bensington were murdered by a ghost.
excuse me, Inspector. Elsie, the maid, thinks a curse caused Lord Bensington's death.
What's that you say, Chalmers? A curse?
His lordship was on the board of the British Museum. Elsie thinks perhaps one of their Egyptian mummies might be involved, sir.
So our murderer is an Egyptian mummy who can walk through walls, suffocate armed men,
And then disappear without a trace? Heavens, no, Frimly. Constable, who was in the house at the time of the murder last night?
I've detained them all for the investigation, Inspector. The widow, Lady Margaret Bensington. Her male secretary, Reginald Skelmsdale. Colonel Frothingham, a retired military man. Gretchen Laytherly, an actress. Her beau, Ralph Stellsmore. The Countess Valeska, a white Russian mystic.
a mystic?
A fortune-teller and psychic medium. Then, Madame Hillswick, a society matron. And family solicitor, Mr. Cedric Crumpton, Esquire.
Yes, well, let's interview them all beginning at noon. That's 10 minutes from now, and...
That's odd. His lordship's grandfather clock. It's striking the hour. Now.
But I have 11:50 on my watch. This clock's fast.
What? His lordship would have my head if I allowed little Ben to be set 10 minutes fast. But I seem to have lost my clock key. Well...
Help!
It's coming from Lady Bensington's chambers.
Hurry, Constable, Inspector!
Help! Save me! Help! The snake!
Great Scott! It's a cobra, coiled in a dresser drawer, ready to strike Gretchen.
Careful, Miss Laytherly. Don't move. Don't move. These cobras are extremely deadly.
Reginald, do something! Do something!
Here, step aside. I'll shoot the serpent.
Steady. Steady.
Did you see that, Colonel? Reginald shot the lid and trapped the snake in the drawer.
Are you okay, my dear?
Oh, thank you, Lady Bensington. I'm sorry. I only came into your room to...
Why, she's fainted. The poor lovely thing.
Good shooting there, Reginald.
Yes, wasn't it? I'm quite the marksman.
Luckily, you had your pistol at the ready, Mr. Skelmsdale.
Inspector Rufflethorpe, my secretary Reginald is carrying this gun for my protection.
Yes, after Lord Bensington's death, I thought a firearm would be a good precaution, and it was. Lady Bensington might have been killed.
Yes, by a stray cobra in a dresser drawer.
A banded Egyptian cobra, Constable. I saw them when I was stationed in Cairo back in the 20s. As I recall, one time, a whole...
Excuse me, Lady B. Luncheon is served.
Yes, thank you, Elsie. Please, everyone, have a bit of lunch to calm your nerves, won't you?
What a fright, Inspector. A banded Egyptian cobra. Perhaps Lady Bensington's the target of...
What? Ho, did the Colonel say Egyptian?
Yes, as I recall, the proper name is Naja Baje Anula Fera. My question is, did the cobra crawl here?
What? All the way from Egypt?
No, did it crawl into Lady Bensington's dresser? If it was there, it was placed there.
You mean to say attempted murder by a mummy?
Well, legend has it that mummies could command frogs and reptiles.
Why, that's preposterous, Frimly. Let's begin those interviews. But, Constable, I'd like you to perform some research for me.
That afternoon, the inspector and I interviewed the guests. Of course, they all had alibis for the time of Lord Bensington's murder. However, some were alarmed by the very notion of a curse. At dinner, there was much talk of the supernatural, led by that mysterious beauty, the Countess Valeska.
You see, ghosts are not always frightening. Friendly spirits can help you, Lady Bensington.
That's very kind, Countess. Something must explain my poor husband's horrible death.
Well, I can honestly be thankful that my husband has never been to the British Museum.
Poppycock, Madam Hillswick. My guess is that his lordship was bitten by that Egyptian cobra. Eh, Colonel?
No, Crumpton, old bean. It would take an hour to die from a cobra's bite. Archie died within 10 minutes. Right, Inspector?
Quite right, Colonel. If only I could question his lordship himself about his attacker.
Oh, but you can, Inspector. Countess Valeska here regularly contacts the souls of the dead.
A seance? Yes, it's fascinating. I hear Countess Valeska is the best. Simply the best.
Well, I suppose it can't hurt to try to contact my poor Archibald. Would you, Countess?
Very well. We must join together at this table in a circle. Dim the lights, please, while I go into a trance. Asa, nisi, masa.
Elsie, the lights. Then prepare some tea.
There, madam, the lights are down.
Spare me this. I've seen enough hocus pocus. I'll go smoke a pipe in my room.
I agree with the Colonel. Perhaps I can scare up Reginald for a little game of darts.
Oh, you cowards! The mystic arts are fascinating. At least the inspector and Mr. Crumpton are brave. Oh, but where is Sergeant Frimly?
Thank you, Miss Laytherly. Mr. Frimly is on an errand for me. However, the storm outside appears to be picking up.
Quiet, please. Grasp the hand of the person seated beside you. Now, close your eyes. I call upon the mystic spirits to speak to me. I seek the soul of Lady Bensington's departed companion. Wait!
What?
I'm beginning to see. Oh, spirit, please reveal yourself and... Wait, I see a round tree. A round tree, but it is dead. A round tree cut down in the prime of life. I see a face, the face of a woman.
Lady Bensington, she's...
Somebody get the lights.
Oh no! How horrible!
Is she dead?
No, wait. She's still breathing. She just fainted. Here, she's coming to.
Oh my!
Oh, there, Margaret. Are you all right?
What was that crash, Elsie?
Sorry, sir. The scream frightened me, and I dropped this tea tray and...
Ah! What is it?
The Countess! She's gone!
What? Why, she is gone! Where did she go?
Inspector! Inspector Rufflethorpe!
In here, Frimly.
Inspector, what's the commotion?
Frimly, you just came in through the hall. Did you see Countess Valeska leaving?
The Countess? Why, no, I would surely.
Another vanish?
I saw her. She jumped into the fireplace, right through the fire, and disappeared.
But that's impossible.
The fireplace? It's large enough to stand up in. Frimly, take a look.
I'll grab this poker and tap about.
Try the area directly behind the flames.
Nope, no good. It's solid rock and... Wait. It sounds hollow there, Inspector. I'll just push this stone back and...
Aha! There's a secret passage.
I believe Countess Valeska used that to escape.
Here, I have my pocket flash. Let's go in.
Mr. Crumpton, you stay here. Miss Laytherly and Madam Hillswick take Lady Bensington to her room. Frimly and I are on the trail of a ghost.
The inspector and I ventured down a stone staircase to a long, dark corridor. At the end, we found a door leading outside. However, there was no sign of the Countess Valeska.
Well, Frimly, she could be anywhere on the grounds by now. If she's our murderer, the timing of her escape was somewhat odd. Shine your light down here, Frimly. Look, it's a small box. A mailing box. It's opened.
It's addressed to Reginald Skelmsdale, postmarked last month. The return address is Redback Acres, Yoxpock Peddle, New South Wales, Australia. There's something inside. Goodness! Half a dozen dead cockroaches?
It appears some are dried out, half-eaten.
Half-eaten cockroaches from Australia. A rather unappetizing snack, I might say.
By Jove, but they are, Frimly. Very tasty indeed. And Reginald Skelmsdale is the key to solving Lord Bensington's murder. We must find him at once. Hurry!
We searched the entire house and eventually found Skelmsdale in the gun room, but he wasn't available for questioning. Skelmsdale was dead.
Poisoned, you say? Poison in the gun room?
Yes, Mr. Stellsmore. I believe his fingerprints are on this glass of scotch. I also smell a bitter almond aroma and jasmine. I'd say potassium cyanide. A quick, painless death.
Suicide? He killed himself? But why?
Well, Crumpton, he must have known they were closing in and killed himself to avoid capture.
Hardly. He had no idea we were onto him, or he would have run. No, Skelmsdale was murdered.
Murdered? But his fingerprints were on the glass. He drank the poison himself.
He was forced to drink the poison by a friend, who happened to be a woman.
Come now, Inspector. How can you know it was a friend, let alone a woman?
Because he was murdered in the gun room.
Precisely. Skelmsdale was a crack shot. There are guns all over this room. Had the murderer been a stranger, Skelmsdale would have surely defended himself.
But he didn't. Therefore, he knew the murderer and didn't consider them a threat.
So, when the murderer pulled a gun on him, Skelmsdale had no choice but to drink the poison. He was killed to ensure his silence.
Brilliant deduction, Inspector. But why a woman? And which woman murdered Skelmsdale?
Wait, Inspector. It had to be Countess Valeska. She knew of the secret passage.
Oh, I get it. Which she used to escape in the confusion after the seance. Bravo. Inspector Rufflethorpe has cracked the case wide open.
Constable Dixon returned just as we assembled everyone in the study. Lady Bensington seemed anxious to hear the inspector's conclusions regarding the murders of Lord Bensington and Reginald Skelmsdale.
Friends, I am heartsick over the loss of my husband and my personal secretary. My only comfort is knowing that the good inspector has brought this dreadful episode to a speedy conclusion.
Thank you, Lady Bensington. With my investigation completed, I'll simply announce that the murderer is...
Wait, Inspector. We know all about Reginald Skelmsdale and Countess Valeska. Can you explain how Lord Bensington was murdered in this very room when it was locked and no one entered or left?
Oh, that. Very well. Last night at the cocktail party. It was about 9:40 when Lady Bensington bid farewell to his lordship. He retired to his study and bolted the door securely from the inside. He took off his shoes to relax. 10 minutes later, at 9:50, this grandfather clock here began to chime the hour.
10 minutes early!
Precisely. The murderer had set the clock ahead, knowing his lordship would naturally check the time against his own pocket watch. He reached into his vest pocket and...
Yell!
Screamed when he found a spider there. He shook it off and it fell onto the floor. When he tried to step on it, it bit him on the foot. This spider's bite was deadly, 14 times more powerful than a cobra's venom. It was an Australian red-back spider, widely known as the Black Widow.
That mailing box we found in the secret passage was from Redback Acres in Australia. Yes, and the cockroaches were...
Luncheon for the spider. That's why they were dried out and half-eaten, wasn't it?
But why didn't the coroner find marks from the spider bite on Lord Bensington's foot?
His lordship didn't know the bite was dangerous, only that it hurt the Dickens. He grew angry and in time delirious as the venom coursed through his body, very angry.
His lordship had quite a temper. He must have overturned the desk, pursuing the spider.
And that explains why we heard him shout, "I'll get you, and you can't get away."
Yes, but what about the gunshots?
His frustration and the effects of the venom drove him hysterically mad. He grabbed his revolver and began shooting at the escaping arachnid, only to miss and accidentally...
Shot himself in the foot?
Yes! Right where the spider bite had been.
I see, thereby obscuring the bite marks. The shock speeded the effects of the venom, which...
caused the suffocation that killed him, yes.
Why, it's positively diabolical.
But, Inspector, sir, what about the mummies?
Harum scarum, pure speculation, my dear.
But the cobra! That wasn't speculation.
No, the cobra was merely a backup in case the spider failed in its murderous task.
So, since Reginald had procured the spider, then he was the murderer.
And leak with that dreadful but charming Countess Valeska.
Who poisoned Reginald to cover her trail.
Well, even though Countess Valeska got away, I want to thank you, Inspector, for solving this beastly crime. You are amazing.
Not half as amazing as you, Lady Bensington.
Whatever do you mean?
Well, I wouldn't have guessed you pushed the Countess off the cliff, but you did.
What?
Yes, my men fished Valeska's body out of the surf below the cliffs just minutes ago.
You had to kill Countess Valeska. She was blackmailing you over the suspicious drowning of your chaperone in 1908, a Mrs. Roundtree.
No! No!
Yes! When the Countess used the secret passage to escape, you realized she was in cahoots with Reginald Skelmsdale, because that passage was known only to Skelmsdale and yourself.
No! No! Don't believe her!
So you murdered Skelmsdale by forcing him to drink poison at gunpoint. Miss Lady Bensington, you're wearing jasmine perfume, aren't you?
Why, yes. So?
The same jasmine perfume I smelled in the gun room, along with the scent of cyanide. You had to kill Skelmsdale, who staged the cobra attack and a two-handy rescue, because he was your accomplice in the murder of Lord Bensington.
No, it's a lie! A pack of horrid lies!
You see, Valeska and Skelmsdale had no motive to kill Lord Bensington, but you did. Inheritance. You slipped the spider in his lordship's pocket as he left the party. You set the grandfather clock ahead 10 minutes. I believe that's the clock key dangling from your charm bracelet.
Ew!
Her ladyship has fainted. Really fainted this time, Inspector. She's been through quite an ordeal. Should I let her sleep?
No, revive her, Chalmers. I'm afraid there'll be no more pleasant dreams for the Black Widow of Twitshire Estate.
So, as it turns out, the mystery of the locked room murder was merely a coincidence. The real murderer was a Black Widow spider, and Lady Margaret Farquhar Bensington, the Black Widow of Twitshire Estate. Yes.
We'll return again next time with another mysterious tale from the casebook of Inspector Rufflethorpe. Today's program was written and scored by Anthony E. Palermo. Our program featured as Inspector Rufflethorpe,
Katie Hargroue,
as Sergeant Frimly,
Davon Oliver,
as Lady Bensington,
Tari Dean,
as Constable Dixon,
Ben Reynolds,
as Countess Valeska,
Alyssa Moss,
as Cedric Crumpton,
Cody Carter,
as Gretchen Laytherly,
Meredith Taylor,
as Colonel Frothingham,
Philip Reynolds,
as Ralph Stellsmore,
Cedric Carson Jr.,
as Chalmers,
Nicholos Trusclair,
as Reginald Skelmsdale,
River Delcambre,
as Madame Hillswick,
Grider Killam,
and as Elsie.
Trinity Galloway.
Our sound effects artists were Diana Sines and DeAndre Bookman. Our director was Andy Reed. Engineering by Meredith Taylor. I'm Jade Wilson. Inspector Rufflethorpe is a production of the Angelina College Department of Theater.